What's up, Huddle Crew? I had a little bit of technical difficulty. Thanks for joining us here on the Huddle. Coming at you every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central. If you're joining us on one of the live streams, please comment, give us some feedback throughout the process here. My two cohorts, Daniel and Jose Gonzalez from Preferred Flooring, both of them are mobile today. So we'll be going. We'll not only be live, we'll be remote. So Floor God's in the house. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about. And by the way, we're creeping up on 100 episodes, folks. We got to give me some ideas on what we should do special for the 100 episode. Type in your ideas for something cool to do for the 100th episode of the Huddle. Anyway, we're on episode number 87, and we are talking about client education on flooring projects. That's kind of a maybe needs a little bit more in-depth conversation just on what the topic means. It means educating your client about the flooring and the expected, managing. We've talked about managing expectations. So it's really educating your client about the flooring you're putting in for them, why you selected it, or why you kind of led them to the path of that particular flooring, and properly educating them not only on what to expect afterwards, but what to expect during the installation. What kind of, if you're doing a glue down LVP, maybe explaining that, it's got to be smooth and dust free and all of these things that we know for flooring per ASTM F710, right? So for residential homes or commercial properties, kind of educating the process of the installation. That's kind of what we're talking about today, and going to dive a little bit deeper on how to manage that, because your customers' satisfaction heavily depends on your ability to effectively communicate what to expect during the process of the install, what really all the way up to this, starting at the sale, but particularly the install when you're in their home or their business, and through what to expect from the performance of the flooring. And each job site's different, each project's different. So those expectations are different on every job. So Jose, as you're driving down the road, and you probably got a few things on your plate here today, do you mind chiming in on where do you start managing customer expectations?
Well, you start at the beginning. First off is, we're solutionists, right? So we got to see what's there, what's going on, whether this is commercial, residential, new construction, renovation. There's a lot of things to factor in for me when I'm approaching it, and it's a matter of, for me, and this is like my opinion, guys. This is my approach. I try to find out what they didn't like about what they previously had, right? What is leading to the renovation? Is this an insurance claim, or is this just updating? Is it purely aesthetics, or
Yeah,
they have
maybe
something installed a few years ago? They're just not happy with the performance.
Yeah, or maybe was you were breaking up there, so I was going to just kind of pick up on what I think you were putting down there was, what did they, why is this renovation happening? If it's obvious a disaster of some sort, then it's got to be replaced. But if was it aesthetics, or the colors are out of date? Well, that tells you a lot. It tells you your customer wants to stay trendy, or at least up to date. Unless it's 1950s stuff, then they just kind of skipped a few generations of design. But getting to know why they are wanting a new floor or remodeling their home or whatever, that's a great place to start. Plus, it shows you give us easy, Paul. It shows you give a care. about why they're shopping.
Yeah, and can you hear me okay now? I pulled over so
Yeah.
that way I wasn't getting that way I have a good signal. But yeah, that's where I was going with that. It's um setting the expectations for me is having to is understanding exactly where they're coming from and where they want to go. What's going to be the end product? And it is different commercial than residential. And I'll start with the residential portion, just to kind of get that one going. Is and nowadays a lot of clients have an idea of what they want. They understand a lot of the science and performance behind the products. It I feel it's our responsibility as the professional to make sure that we're educating them and setting a level of expectation that is accurate to the product that we're going to be installing or the product that they want. Because sometimes they want it to look a certain way, but it will not perform for the life of the product or the warranty. And those
Would
are
you
some hard
say,
covers.
Jose, just to butt in here, would you say that the customer is two things? This is my thought, so I'm leading you down.
Yeah, I love it.
but would you say they're both more educated and misinformed at the same time than customers 15 years ago?
Yes, I'm going
They
to.
watch YouTube videos, they got an idea, but they're also misinformed because they're sold that this is a waterproof flooring and then nothing behind that to really understand what waterproof means or what it means to
Correct,
have a
and
waterproof flooring.
and you got to think too, like myself as a consumer, I have a habit of picking out the words and the the verbiage that I want to pay attention to, the what benefits my thought process. That's what I pay attention to, and it's like the sales gimmick. What's better price, $9.99 or $10, right? It's putting the literature in front that is going to be more viable, or maybe I don't want to say misdirect, but um, put the customer in a position to pay attention to what they want to hear and what they want to see. And I don't want to say it's like a sales gimmick, but you got to read the fine print. It waterproof. Some material could be with the right system, but I would say more water resistant as a whole. And that's where we come in and try to explain to them, hey, I'm cutting this material that's got a coating that's water resistant. So once I cut this material and I put it against the wall, I'm removing that water resistant layer. Oh, but it says it's waterproof. Well, yes and no. To an extent, this piece itself could probably be considered waterproof, but I would say more water resistant. Once it scratches, etches, or gets cut, now we have an exposed area that is no longer waterproof.
Yeah,
And
that's probably the point I'm driving at is, the consumer is more educated. They know more of what they want. So we have to, as sales professionals or as flooring professionals, be able to exceed that, what they watched and learned on YouTube. So we need to be educate like experts in our field to be able to guide them from where they're at now. Back in the day, I mean, people were a blank slate a lot of times. They didn't have the
so Jimmy,
YouTubes and the all the other stuff.
Elena,
Um, yeah,
Mr.
quick
Wow.
shout out our main tech guy, Mr. Daniel, not on today. He usually will throw up everybody's chat, but I want to say what's up, Roland and Mario, Jimmy,
Elena,
Scott, yeah, Elena. Welcome to the stream, guys. Welcome to the podcast. So, floor god in the house. There we go. Someone's doing it for me. Um,
you're right. We have to fill in the gaps. That's what it is. We got
yeah,
to fill in the gaps. Sometimes it's a matter of just they already know, and if they're stubborn like I am, they'll have their heart set on something, and their mind will be made up. And this is the video I watched. This is the information right here, and that's where we got to unfold everything and say, all right, but check this out. This is the line that I'm referring to. This is the information that I would like you to pay attention to, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're installing everything to specifications, manufacturer recommendations, and they are happy with what we left. And it sometimes it's that's where helping a client shift their mindset from aesthetics to performance and life and investment versus well, this is what I want and this is what's going to work.
Yeah,
It's a hard sell sometimes.
ultimately it's about, the customer being happy long term with their flooring. And when you
Yeah.
start moving from residential into commercial, it comes into things like educating them on the site conditions. And you got to do that in residential as well. But in residential replacement anyway, most of the times you have a much better chance of a positive site condition, a good site condition, than you would on a new commercial or even a large commercial remodel. You may not
Yeah.
have HVAC, you may not have windows, you may have all these things going on commercial job sites, and that's where one of our buddies over at Floor Cloud, that's when their technology comes in. So having the technology to back, not just educating your client about the materials and how they're going to look, but then also the site conditions that are needed for that material to be installed properly, as well as the long-term performance. And then you got the backside care and maintenance of it. Um, do you guys educate at the end of a job? Do you guys do that on residential? I know you have to on commercial, like you have to give a care and maintenance package as part of your
Mhm.
closeout documents, but
Yes.
when you're doing a residential job, do you do the same thing? You give them care and maintenance package on how to properly care for the floor?
So I'm a little proactive when it comes to that. If we're putting down something simple like just a standard piece of carpet, let's just call it carpet. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. Just let them know the ins and the outs. Don't over clean it. Don't saturate it. I think we had a conversation about detergents and how they attract dirt. We have those conversations as well. But when it comes to installing some resilient, and I'm just going to go to that because that's what we do. When it comes to that, I do have to have a conversation with them because I'll look in the corner and they'll have a steam mop ready to rock, right? And I'm like, well, you're not going to want to hear this, but if this is the material you're going with, you're not going to want to use that. That's going to void any of the manufacturer warranty. And they were like, why? Why? Well, and then we have to go over the science behind it, and I have to give them the
Hmm.
literature. Um,
Yeah, why don't
it
you guys in the comments tell us what you guys do to educate your customer? Because Jose's looking at it ahead of time. And a lot of times you got to say, well, even like one of my favorite things when I did sell residential products was I'd tell the customer, like, depending on the different fiber types for the carpet, but bare feet are one of the worst things for a cut pile carpet, residential in particular. And so if you can wear some socks or some booties, you'll help your carpet stay nice and fluffy for longer. You won't get those oils
the
into the
oils, yeah.
product that then attract dirt, that then give you the traffic patterns and are harder to clean. So give us some comments on what you do to when you go into a homeowner or a commercial project and education. So along those lines, you were talking about the steam mop. What other do you probably also try to discover, like, how often do you want to clean? Because we want floors a lot of times when I'm specifically dealing in the commercial world with, say, a more of a tenant finish, like an attorney firm, or a law firm,
Hmm.
or a smaller, say, a 5 6,000 foot, a dentist, that kind of thing. How often do you have your cleaning crews in here? How educated are they? And how do you want to live on this floor? Like, do you want to have to clean it all the time? Well, then you probably don't want this product. And this will be more cleanable, or you get this color, it'll look clean for a lot longer because you only clean once a week, right? You only deep clean once a week. So a lot of those things we try to discover on the front side when we're selling too.
And that's a good point. And unfortunately, for some of the I'm going to go to the commercial projects. For some of the commercial projects we do, we don't have a say in the color selection, material selection. Um, so we're kind of put in a
Yeah,
situation
our
to,
architect spec'd it or something.
yeah, and say we're doing the install for another company, right? And we're just the installation outfit on there. We have to watch what we say. We have to watch our approach because we don't want to overspeak and say the wrong thing. But at the same time, the clients are asking questions, and I'll use, for example, I won't say the name of the place, but there was a white rubber tile going in um, let's just call it a medical building, and they were going to have a lot of traffic, and it was coming in right from the vestibule, right inside. We're in Michigan. We have, all the elements. And before we installed, we're like, white? And I had a friend that worked there in the office, and we had an off record chat about it. I'm like, man, this is what's going to happen. Like, I don't think that this is the wisest choice, but I mean, it was too late. Everything was purchased. They went ahead with it. The designer sold the design and the color scheme. And we
Yeah,
went
but
back
at the end
there.
of the day, it's still, it falls on then whoever you're installing that floor for to kind of educate them on, you're going to have to keep this thing. You want this to look clean, you're going to have to keep it clean. That's
Right.
one thing that I've learned a lot with even on commercial jobs. Well, I thought this grout wouldn't get stained, and I'm like, yeah, it won't stain, but it's not dirt proof. Like, it's not going to not get dirty. You still have to deep clean it. It'll clean back to its original look very well because it's an epoxy, or it's a, power grout does real good there. And a lot of the urethanes, but it doesn't mean that you don't clean it. Like, it's got some, repellent that
Right.
just
It's
pushes the dirt.
they have topicals that you can use on some of the products that it's okay to use it, and it is called for to help mitigate that. But even then, you have to keep up with recoating, refinishing, and that's where all of that comes into play. And let me go to the comments here. Roland had said on here that need to take that off the installer's plate. It needs to come from the people that spec or sold the project. And he's right. He's right. It does. However, it's one of those items where it's going to be talked about throughout the project, before the project, during the project, after the project. And as an installer, you just have to be prepared for those conversations, and just understand that you are walking a fine line of throwing someone under the bus and saying something that you shouldn't say, or leading the client into believing that they have been taken advantage of or duped. When
Well, at the end of the day, yes, he's right. It's not the installer, but we're not only talking from the installer standpoint. From a flooring
right,
company standpoint, it's our job to say those things. As a flooring installer standpoint, our job is to install.
yep,
We didn't quite get there, so I think Roland jumped up ahead of us in the conversation here. But yeah, as installers, we're there to install. If they ask us how good is this going to clean, we can kind of bring that information up and say, I have seen this clean very well. That's probably the best thing you can say, and leave it at that, and let the flooring company that you're installing for, or the architect or whoever, make those further comments, and you just keep yourself out of it. Your job's to install it. I know that when I was installing as a sub, sometimes I get like the question, how good is this product? And I'm like, it installs wonderfully, ma'am.
um,
that's or I enjoy installing this product, and that's enough for them to leave me alone on it, and I don't have to go down the road of like trying to provide more information than I probably should. It's just not my position as an installer. But we started off kind of from the company standpoint. I do agree, like time of sale, Rollins says, it needs to be brought up at the time of sale. I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. And Daniel's in the house. What's up, brother?
Nate?
So Jimmy says, the worst question from a customer: is this a good product?
Oh my goodness, that's actually
Yeah.
a very common question.
Yeah. And
What do you think about this
that's where
product?
that's where I always say I enjoy installing this product, sir, or ma'am,
Yeah,
or whatever.
I
I
enjoy
just that's
installing this,
it.
and you're gonna love it too.
Yeah. I don't go no further. I just say the product's nice to install. It's going very well. Well, what about how's it going to perform? Say, well, you probably better call your salesperson on that. They probably know a little bit more about the long term longevity of this product, but it does install well. A lot of times, if a salesman or a flooring company, you know, kind of sets up their projects right, hopefully not a lot of that comes to the installer, but I know it does. So
It does. And shifting back over to like commercial, where you're not really being watched, and you don't have a lot of those questions being asked, because I tend to get more questions like that when we were in the residential um,
yeah, certainly.
industry. And commercial is, everybody on the project already knows what you're installing. They don't ask you those questions. What the, they don't
Is she
ask you those
running for
questions.
president or what?
It's no, she's got a game tonight, so they had their last home game, and I brought this with me so we can. I
El
mean,
I'm
it's
sure.
Presidente.
I'm
amazing,
sure
so.
she's gonna really, really love
Appreciate.
that and appreciate that.
Where was
That's
I
some
going with
parent
that?
stuff right there.
Um, what I was going with the commercial portion of it. You don't get asked a lot of those questions, right? The only things you get asked is, why does this look like that? Why is this side not done? How long until you get done here? When do you need this area? When can I have that room when you're done? And that's where educating and being consistent on floor protection. Hey, make sure that their overhead is done before I come in, because I'm working with the LVT. They start putting ladders and bakers on there. We're going to be, moving tile, even though it's glued down, if it's not over PS adhesive. And I think that there's some prep that goes along with the commercial along those lines as well.
Well, I did a
Yeah, that's
post
part
bid
of when you
last
walk
week.
in. That's where install.
I did a post bid last week, and that's what we were going over about. They had such a slim timeline, and it's like, no, like this is going to take longer. Plus, once I install this sheet vinyl, you guys got to be off of it for 3 days. And he's like, these are things that no one has ever told me before.
Yeah,
And that's
and look,
that's a hard truth
your
right there.
customer, your customer will appreciate that. I mean, they may not like it. Most of the time on commercial jobs, you got these tight time frames, but they appreciate the information. At the very least, you're protecting yourself, right?
100%.
So
Well, and you're prepping them for the downtime as well, right? Now there's a lot more moving parts on the commercial project too, because if they got to get in and set some fixtures, they got to get in, put casework on top of that flooring. Now they had it scheduled so tight where they were in the same day or the very next day, and now they're losing 3 days. Depending on what.
Now let me throw this at you. So if it's a floating LVT in that area and they plan on putting their casework in afterwards, right? That's where the education comes in, because there's plenty of contractors that they either don't know it or they don't think about it. Like, hey, that's got to be put in first, man, and then I've got to leave my gap around that product. You can't go setting your
Right.
millwork right on top of my floating floor. What?
What do you mean?
That's
We do
all
it all
part
the
of this
time.
education that we're talking about. And hey, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Jesus. He's going up. He just got back from the summit, and he's going up to Ardex facility to get some more training, get a certification up there. So
Yes, sir.
kudos to Jesus for staying in the game and keeping trained. But
That
that
dude's
being
hitting it
said,
hard,
yeah,
man. That dude, big things right there. That dude's hitting it hard.
Yeah, great job, brother. But yeah, that's part of the education too, like telling them when those things can and cannot happen. What do you guys think of doing after we kind of started doing this and had some success with it, and I think we're going to kind of double down on it, which is on commercial jobs anyway, having a session with their cleaning company to show them how to properly clean it. Like it's a 3-hour deal that will come to your facility. We'll work with your janitorial staff to show them how to properly take care of this floor. It's more important on, like, I found on BioSpec, some of these sheet vinyls, BioSpec's one of them, that, man, can they destroy that sheet vinyl if it's not handled right. Same with like your textured sheet vinyls, as well as your LVTs and stuff. But there's certain processes with some of the sheet vinyls where it's spray buff and you're not supposed to wax it, and they thought they were going to wax it, and all this stuff that kind of goes into that.
Oh my goodness.
So we've done a few of those
They wax
sessions.
it
I was
anyways.
curious what you guys. Well, I'm hoping that it does happen that way, actually. I mean, you're telling the truth, but it's not happened when we've done a session with them, because they just never, we give them a care and maintenance. That owner gives it to the maintenance director. The maintenance director gives it to the janitorial staff, and the janitorial staff gives it to file 13. That seems to be what happens.
The missing file.
Yeah. It's like,
honestly, that's a good idea. I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, we've probably talked about stuff like that in a meeting, saying that they need to educate their staff, but I've never once sat down and said we need to take initiative to make sure that their staff or the right people in their staff are getting educated. So that's
right down to the source, to training the people that are going to put their hands on it. It's hard to get set up. And Dave Garden asked, are you providing a supply list, like a cleaning supply list for them? Typically, that's in the care and maintenance package for our projects. The proper, whether it's a microfiber or the proper cleaning chemicals, they'll tell you, Johnson, pH neutral, or whoever's product. If it's Armstrong, they're going to tell you an Armstrong product. And
Simple Green. Right?
But they
That's
also they'll also give you some, kind of generic ones that you can get from janitorial supply house as options. So for the most part, we do cover that. We try to highlight the most important parts, which to us is when to clean it, what to use to clean it, and the equipment needed to clean it. So I think that's a great question, Dave. And for sure, one of the falls right into educating your client. At the end of the day, if we do a great job and the floor looks great, I just hate to think of the times that it's happened, and it has, where a customer ruined the floor because they didn't properly maintain it. So trying to find ways to educate around that, it can be difficult, but that's kind of what we've been flirting with. We've done a few of them, and thinking about doing more of them, but man, it costs a lot of money, honestly, and costs a lot of time to put that together. So, but at the end of the day, hoping that the client has a long-term floor. Not a bad idea. Get it set up for them to have one of the cleaning company distributors to go out and do it. That's not a bad idea. I guess you could always ask the janitor, whoever's cleaning the floors, where they buy their chemicals, and then make sure that send it to them and get something set up.
Well, the flooring distributors are like, say if it's a specialty product, hey, this person is looking for this information. Can you provide it to them? And I wanted them to provide it to me, and they said, nope, we'll take care of everything. So that's kind of been my go-to since then.
I've always had good luck providing it. I just don't have good luck with the janitorial companies, like following that, like actually doing it the way that the manufacturer says to clean it. So anyway, as we're on education, and speaking of education, we just got back from the summit. I think a lot of you guys that are on the stream right now, some of you guys are there. Some of you guys maybe tuned in to some of the live streams. That was a good show. I love all the organizations that, put together these opportunities for installers to get together and chat and find new ways to do business and open the lines of communication up between the installer and the manufacturer was the real purpose of the summit. So, Yeah, stay educated, my friend. These are important things that you can teach your customer. You know, I'm going to tap back into you guys. You guys are a wealth of knowledge. Tell me some other stuff that we should do, uh, maybe from the installer side. Um, you know, where do you fall? Where do you find that we got to be smart? And when I'm saying educate the client, this isn't maybe even educating the flooring company. I've had this happen to me, so I got an example. But
That's what it is. It's educating the salesman as an installer and letting them know what is, I mean, since we're the ones that are on the ground all the time, it's letting them know, hey, this material can't go here. This material should be going here instead, stuff like that. Because some of these salesmen don't have the same training that we do, right? And which that's an issue too. They really should, but they don't. And it's educating the salesman when something goes wrong. Instead of just complaining about it, you're actually in there letting them know so it doesn't happen again.
well, this happened to me not too long ago on an epoxy floor. It was coming right out of a warehouse into a break room, and my installer said, "Hey, man, you need to have
Right, Dave.
a satin finish and aluminum oxide on your top coat. That'll keep the dirty foot traffic from showing up." I was like, all right, well, let's do it. I mean, what and it's true. The floor looks clean all the damn time. There's not those dirty footprints coming out of the manufacturing plant, those, you know, dark gray footprints. It's not visible. The aluminum oxide that's in the top coat, along with it being a satin finish and not a high gloss finish, the floor looks amazing and the customer loves it. More to come. So I would say
That's
salespeople,
a good cheat code.
yeah, dude, even I've been doing this my whole life. I still learn. So I would implore the salespeople out there, the people out selling floors and specing the floor for your customer, listen to your installer. A lot of times they'll give you little tricks, little thoughts that you haven't, maybe you ain't been on the floor in the last 15 years. And there's some things they know that you may not. So Dave Gordon says, go to CFI convention for continuing education. Hell yeah.
And at the CFI convention, I think it was not this year, the year last year, and I think this year as well, is they actually had an event specifically geared for sales staff to come in and understand and get their hands on some material and kind of go through some of the process, so they kind of understand what the installer has to deal with. It's not going to be a day to day, but it gave them more information, and it may be a little bit more hands on knowledge of what they deal with. And I'm sure that through conversation, they talked about some of the pitfalls as an installer, and the disconnect in communication between the sales staff and the installation. And I think that that's really what it is. And you know what? I'm going to go back and let you guys know communication, right? Communication is key. Like if you are on the forefront of a design build for a commercial project and you have, as a salesperson, you have installers readily available who are always willing to discuss projects that you have in mind for them, give them a call. Show them what you're thinking if you're designing it, right? And show them what you got if somebody else is speccing it. That way they can say, hey, I'm sorry, but, you know, putting a 4-inch strip of LVT around this recessed mat in this entry probably isn't going to work in the winter in Michigan. You're going to end up with it failing. You know, I mean, we try to tell people, we try to, but
well, it's not always going to work, but it is our, I feel like it's our duty to explain these things, but you can't go tell the building owner that if you're the installer. You go tell your salesman, like, man, hey, this is going to be a problem, dude. Don't be calling me back in 6 months when that LVT comes loose in that vestibule. I'm telling you now, I'm going to install it perfectly, but it ain't going to last. Just know.
Yep.
You know.
And not saying I told you so after something happens. If you did try to direct someone, it is also very huge. Just being part of the solution after something does go south is worth its weight in gold as well. And people respond to that a lot better than, haha, I told you so. Told ya. Like, oh, what? Last time I called you, Mr. I told you so.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is nobody wins. I mean, nobody wins in that one, right? I told you so. Just no one wins. It feels good, I guess, if you're the guy saying I told you so. But um, so a few
That's
comments
temporary.
here. It opens their eyes and shows that they have room for improving in their sales, more efficient and less issues for sure.
Elena's correct,
Yeah.
100%. That is a great way to approach it, and that is a great way to sell your labor if that's what you're providing. Have that approach. Hey, I would like to discuss future projects, and this is why. And then you guys get better as a team, salesperson and installation, get better as a team as your relationship progresses.
Yeah, there's no harm in it's funny. I don't know if we have a topic that communication doesn't come up on, but it's always there. Uh, I mean, I guess it's pretty much the foundation of any relationship or solving any problem. So it makes sense that it's there, but it's funny how it always comes up. Yeah, I think that communicating on both sides, the like you said earlier, though, Jose, when you're an installer, you do have to be careful that don't try to be captain save the project from. I mean,
Captain Save a Flow.
yeah, I got to be careful what I say, right? But there's truth to that. You can get your store in trouble or your salespeople in trouble, or throw the architect under the bus, which there's no architect on the planet that's going to appreciate that. I can tell you, it'll cause you nothing but
Yeah.
harm. So the best thing you can do is communicate with your next line of communication, which is the store, if you or whoever sold the product, if you are in that position. And somebody said in the comments, I love installing this stuff. I have it in my house. I don't know if that applies on every job or how many rooms you got, but if you do have it in your house, that's a great comeback for sure.
It is, and you know what? I've actually honestly used that line and was truthful about it.
Yeah.
It's if I wouldn't install it in my mom's house, I probably wouldn't want to work with it. But you don't always get to pick and choose what you're installing. But you do have control over how well you install that, and you have control over following the specs and making sure that projects are ready regardless of residential or commercial.
Yeah, and you have control over telling the customer why you need to level that floor or skim the floor or patch the floor or level this, this 3/4 inch, variant from the, laundry room floor to the kitchen or whatever scenario it is. I mean, that's where your education comes in. But there's always relationships here. And so just be cognizant of that, I think. I mean, I know that I wouldn't want to be thrown under the bus because I sold something to a customer that I think is best, but the installer doesn't, because there's differences of opinion too. So make sure it's not your opinion coming out. Lean on the documents and make sure that you are educated before you talk. The worst thing that could happen is you're trying to educate somebody, but you're not. So make sure you're educated on the products. Make sure you know your job. And a lot of the installers out there do, but there's a fair amount that do not. We all know this.
They always start with, I've been doing it this way for 20 years.
Yeah. If they say that is a huge, huge red flag for me, man.
Don't tell my wife you're getting this, or I will be spending more money. That's Dave Garden's line. We did mention you did mention architects a few moments ago, and I do want to. This is part of the educating the client process. Is the majority of architects do spec in their master specs about following ASTM standards. And what Daniel had just mentioned about going on the post bid, and some generals just don't know what the ASTM standards are. And if the architect is specifying that everything must adhere to those standards, but then you're being asked not to adhere to them, that is an opportunity to educate whomever's telling you not to adhere to them about those standards that are in the master contract.
Yeah.
That's an education piece that sometimes is very hard, but it has to be done.
Yeah, I mean, it can end up being a little bit contentious, but dude, at the end of the day, you're the installer, and you know who's going to get called if something's going bad with that floor. Like, you're going to be one of the first calls, if not the first call. So protect yourself by knowing what you're talking about, understanding those standards. I can't tell you, like, these education sessions that we get to go through when we're at different conferences. Those things, man, I took a ton of notes at Summit. When I'm at CFI, I take at their convention. I'm sitting in those seminars. I'm taking tons of notes. I'm trying to learn so that I'm educated when I'm helping out my project managers as a president of my flooring company and trying to help them understand certain things. And the same goes for our clients when they need some backup. When my PMs, get into a situation and they've explained something, the more educated they are, the better off they are, the more equipped they are to make sure to guide that client down a successful path. I come in as a backup when I need to. I can't do that if I'm not educated. So even when I'm bidding work, just to take this one step further, when I'm bidding work, one of the things I try to pound into my estimators' heads, read the product information, understand how it's supposed to be installed, man. It's hard for you to bid a job without understanding these things. When I do bid approvals for our guys, I'm constantly getting into the product data of the products. If I don't know the job or if I don't know the product, I'm going to learn about it before I put a bid out. That's for you commercial guys.
And you know what? It's funny you say that. And even if it's a product or material that you're very familiar with, it never hurts to reskim some of that information, because something may change and you have to be ready for that. They don't care if you didn't read it or not. Like that, I've been doing it this way for 20 years. Sorry, guys, that doesn't apply anymore. It could be 2 months from the last time you did it.
How much crap has changed? Yeah, try sending mail the way you did 20 years ago and see how quick and efficient you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, things change, man. We got technology that makes your floor go down faster, makes your product look better, makes your labor more efficient. I mean, there's technology out there that is a big benefit to all this. If you're doing it the same way now that you've been doing it 20 years ago, you are not giving yourself a compliment, dude. I'm sorry, that's not a compliment to yourself. If you've been doing this for
information
the same
has
way
been streamlined.
If you've been doing this the same way for 20 years, you're not learning. You're not giving your client the best. And so for those of you out there that might say that, please stop saying it. You're not doing yourself any favors. Because you should be learning. You should be doing it the most modern, the most effective way, not the way it was done 20 years ago. Hey, Daniel, I want to point out the obvious, 2 podcasts ago, Jose couldn't say nothing and he was super quiet. You and I talked the whole time. And now, Mr. Jose, you come on late and you have said 4 words. The audience wants to know what your best, what's your thoughts on these subjects?
I'm in the country, right? So my signal wasn't the best, but I'm on the highway now, so it may be a little bit better. I was kind of going in and out, and I didn't want to start talking and then start getting all chopped up.
Get frozen.
But, I mean, just look at the tools.
It was rather peaceful without the sound of your voice, though.
I know, right? we're talking about, doing the things the same way for 20 years, but just look at the tooling and how advanced it's been just over the last few years, let alone 20 years. I mean, Roberts QEP was over at the summit, and they were talking about all these tools that they're getting ready to release. And it's like, man,
take it easy, Roland.
Making your life easier. And if you're still trying to use the same thing that you were 20 years ago, maybe it's time for an upgrade.
Yeah. Time to stay educated, baby. Get educated, get the right tools, get the most efficient tools, and learn the most efficient new processes and procedures. I learned some stuff this last weekend that I was like, dang, man, that's freaking cool. I'm an old carpet guy,
Me
but
too.
some of that stuff I won't bring it all up because you should have watched the live stream. We gave you an opportunity, but there was some cool stuff on there. So Rollins cutting out
we
early.
didn't
See you,
live
Rollins.
stream everything.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff that we didn't live stream because, you know, that's our way to kind of entice you to get to these things, to go there and learn, because yeah, some of the stuff that we did live stream was very valuable, but there's a bunch of stuff that we didn't that was super valuable too. And it's, man, just the guys talking about concrete and the science behind it. It's crazy.
That was amazing. That was amazing. I've been
You
dealing
can
with
hear
concrete
that.
my whole life, dude. Now I took a ton of notes on that, and I got to say, like, you're 100% correct. And a lot of the, you know, speakers, they don't want their stuff live streamed. So you got to go to convention, CFI convention, go to these things, go to the summit, go to all of them that you can get your hands on. They're all valuable. I remember, I think it may have been Jose. He was like, man, I didn't learn this, that, and this other class, and we won't name anything. But at the end of the day, I was like, that's why you got to go to multiple different courses with different teachers and different instructors, is because that's where you learn different techniques from different instructors. Not one instructor is going to be able to show you everything, you know? So,
Right.
what's up,
Well,
Leslie?
everybody views life through a different lens, right? And that's the same thing with when it comes to the craftsmanship of what we do, and communication skills and approaches to clients, to projects. Some people will never set foot on a commercial project. Some people won't touch a residential project, right? You know, you got to be versatile. You got to be willing to look through somebody else's lens, for even if it's just a short period of time, to kind of see what's out there for you to absorb, for you to use, and for you to teach.
Yep.
And that's the joy of going to these events, is you're always having a little peek through somebody else's lens. And it's amazing the amount of information that everyone has, they're willing to share.
Yeah.
And it just makes you better as an installer, a salesperson, an individual. It makes it a lot easier to communicate with the end users, with the clients, with everyone.
Yeah, it just makes you better. And at that, I'm going to say stay educated, my friends, and then educate your client. I mean, that's what this whole episode was about. But you first have to be educated yourself. You can self-educate a lot, but, you know, we push the events a ton. But at the end of the day, at the very least, read your product data, get to know the product, get your hands on it, learn it, you know, go to your local, when there's training courses, locally, go to those, you know, get trained. Again, I'll say the guy that tells me I've been doing it this way for 20 years, to me, is just a guy that does not want to learn, doesn't want to stay educated, doesn't want to stay up to date with the newest processes and procedures of our industry. And they change every year. I go and learn something new. So with that, guys, we're going to break up for this week. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for everybody for the comments. If you like what we, you know, bring to the table here on the Huddle, please give us a like, subscribe, download our stuff, comment,
share it.
Tell us what you do and don't like, and definitely give it a share. Eliana says knowledge is power. I gotta leave that one out there. That's always good. So with that, guys, we'll see you guys next week, and I will be at the Fuse conference, flying in, just getting back just in time for the Huddle next week. So we'll see you next week, and until then, stay successful.
Hey,
All right.
I like it. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
See you
guys.
guys. Thanks.
We'll see you.